What's up, guys? Welcome back. I did go ahead and do the front bumper and the front bumper lip off camera. I wanted to go ahead and take care of that. It's pretty repetitive. I've already done the rear bumper. You know exactly what it takes. A little sanding, a little bit of body work, and some primer on there. So that's on there and it's setting up. So I'm going to let it set a little while before I start sanding, just like the body and the rest of the car. But I did go ahead and pull in the rear hatch here and took it apart. I didn't show a lot of that on camera just because it's kind of time consuming to pull all those parts and pieces off and without breaking them. I've got all the jams sanded down as well as the top here, and I was getting ready to spray some primer on here, but then I realized that I've got that ZC wing, or the European spoiler, that needs to go on here, and before I spray the primer I want to go ahead and drill the holes necessary for that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that spoiler down. We'll set it on here, mark the holes, and then we'll drill the holes in here. That way, whenever the holes are drilled, you don't have bare metal. You'll be spraying primer on there, and it'll be taken care of and protected from the water. So let's go ahead and pull that spoiler down and take a look at it. Alright, this spoiler here originally uses 4 clips as well as 4 studs to hold it on, but the clips aren't necessary and we don't have the holes for those or the clips themselves. So I'm just going to be using the 4 studs here with a nut on the back side. So if I flip this around, these 4 studs will lay on the paint here, and I'll be able to move it around just a little bit, and that'll give me a marking to go ahead and drill the holes to get this thing mounted. Alright, well that is one of the easiest spoiler installs there is. It's just 4 holes to drill once you have them marked. It's pretty easy to mark and line up. I did have to slot the holes just a little bit to get it to slide to the left just a hair, just so it was perfectly flush with both sides. Now that those holes are drilled, it is ready for primer, so I'll be ready to pull this spoiler off here and then get this thing set up for primer. I'll probably do it here in the garage since it's so cold outside. It's probably below freezing outside now. In the garage here it's 69 degrees, so it's perfect for spraying some primer. I will have to deal with overspray. I've seen some comments about the overspray in here. That is something I have to deal with. It does coat everything. By the time it sets down on stuff, it's mainly just a coating of dust, so everything's got to be wiped down in the future. So not a big deal. I've got most of my stuff covered up, anything that's worth not spraying overspray on. So let's go ahead and pull this spoiler off of here now, get it covered up and put back on the shelf, because we will be ready for that after the paint process is done. Alright, it is the next day here, and I did get the hatch all primered in. I didn't put any guide coat on it because really this is just going to be in the jam area, and I'm just going to use some scuff pad to scuff that up before we paint it. So really this thing is all ready for paint other than just scuffing that up. So I'm going to move away from that now, and I'm going to actually move back to the body of the car, because this is going to be the biggest part of the job at this point, is actually getting all this sanded down, blocking it down with 600 grit. I'm going to do 600 wet with just a little hand block. Try to get these body lines straight. I know there's a few little areas that I've noticed that are going to need a little bit of tweaking. I'm hoping there's enough primer on there to work through it and actually line up the lines that way. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to add a little bit more glazing putty in some areas just to fine tweak it, and then we'll throw a little coat of primer over that area as well. Hopefully we don't sand through to the metal, then I'll have to do a little bit more work, but it's not a big deal. We'll get it taken care of, but I wanted to jump into that. I was going to do the doors. I've got the passenger door already over here. It's ready for primer. I have not primed that yet because I was going to jump into the driver door, and I noticed the one that I bought for a replacement actually has some rust near the bottom here, and it's a little bit more than I want to get into. And the car that, or the door that was on the car whenever I picked it up had a ton of Bondo on it. I started sanding the Bondo down just to see if I could do some metal work to get that pulled back out and straightened up. And while it looks like it might be possible, it's a little beyond my skill set, and I don't really have any good skins to cut and weld, and I didn't really want to get that far into it, so I've been looking for another replacement door. This is the 88 door without the seat belts, which is kind of rare in the US. Everywhere else in the world had these doors without the seat belts on them, but the US was only 88 and half of 89 for the HF model. But I think I found one. It is a pretty penny to get it shipped over here to me because there's nothing local, but that may be the only option that I have. So I'm going to probably get that coming to me as soon as I can, because I'm getting real close to needing it here so I can actually get this thing painted in and get this door painted as well. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this quarter panel, start working these body lines out and blocking down this primer here. Alright, as you can see, I have actually already sanded through the primer. I only put one coat of primer on here, so I didn't have a lot of thickness to work with. I should have probably went ahead and sprayed 2 coats, but either way, you can see these spots here are actually high spots, and there's actually some spots down here that actually have the guide coat still on it. Those are low spots, so what basically I have to do is keep sanding down until I get rid of the low spots, and I'm actually going to have high spots here that I'm going to be continuing to sand through, and then I will have to spray another coat of primer on top of all that once I'm done. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to add a little bit of body filler here because this body line has a kind of a curved edge here, kind of low, and then it comes up to a sharper edge right here. Now I want this sharp edge to match all the way down, so I'll probably have to add a little bit of glazing putty here, let that dry, and then sand it down so I can reshape that line to a sharper edge until I'm happy with it. And once I'm happy with that edge there, I'll be able to throw another coat of primer on here and do exactly the same thing I did here with the block and the 600 grip and get this sanded flat again. Hopefully that'll be the last time I do it, but I'm going to go ahead and keep sanding with the 600 and the block now and see how far we can get until we're ready to put some glazing putty on there. Alright, so for the most part, this panel was pretty straight. I did block it all down. There are a few little low spots, but it's nothing that another layer of filler primer wouldn't take care of. The only thing that I had to add a little body filler onto, or glazing putty, which is really a really smooth body filler, was this line here I was talking about earlier. I got that put on there. I've got to let that set up before I reshape that line or get that line refined. And then I'm going to go ahead and sand the rest of this panel down. That way I can go ahead and spray another layer of primer on it. But I'm not going to do that in today's video because I got to let this set up, and it's pretty chilly out here, so that's going to take a little while, and I don't want to start sanding on that yet. So I'll probably take care of that in the next video, and then we're going to go ahead and move to the rest of this car as well. But I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you in the next one, and we'll keep moving on this car.